तनुवाशन्तमया गिरिशन्ताभिजागशीः यामिषुं गिरिशन्तहस्तेभिभक्ष्यस्तवे शिवां गिरित्रतां कुरु माकिगुंसि पुरुषं जगत् शिवेन वचसा त्वा गिरिशाच्छा वदामसि यथा नः सर्वमिज्जगत यक्ष्मगुं सुमना असत् अध्यवोचदधिवक्ता प्रथमो देव्योऽभिषक् अहेगच्च सर्वागाजम्भयन् सर्वाश्च यातु धान्यः असौ यस्ताम्रो अरुण उत बभ्रस्व मङ्गलः ये चेवागुं रुद्रा अभिदो दिक्षश्रितात् सहस्रशो वैशाखं हेडयेमहे असव्यो वसर्पति नीलग्रीवो विलोहितः उतैनं गोपा अदृशन्नदृशन्नुदहाद्यः उतैनं विश्वा भूतानि सदृष्टो मृडयातिनः नमो अस्तु नीलग्रीवाय सहस्राक्षाय मीढुषेके अधो ये अस्य सत्त्वानोऽहं तेभ्यो करन्नमः प्रमुञ्च धन्वनस्त्वमुभयोरात्रियोर्ज्याम् याश्च ते हस्त इषवः पराता भगवो वप अवतत्यधनुस्त्वगुं सहस्राक्षशते शुधे निशीर्य शल्याणां मुखा शिवो न सुमना भव विज्यं तनुः कपर्दिनो विशल्यो बाणवागुम् उत अनेशन्नस्येषव आभुरस्य निशं गतिः याते हेतिर्मीदुट्टमहस्ते बभूवते धनुः तयास्मान् विश्वतस्त्वमयक्ष्मया परिभुजा नमस्ते अस्त्वायुधायानातताय दृष्टवेगे उभाभ्यामुत ते नमो बाहुभ्यां तव धन्वने परिते धन्वनो घेतिरस्मान् वृणक्तु विश्वतः अधो यगिषु दिस्तवारे अस्मन्निधेहितम् नमस्ते अस्तु भगवन् विश्वेश्वराय महादेवाय त्र्यम्बकाय त्रिपुरान्तकाय त्रिकाग्निकालाय कालाग्निरुद्राय नीलकण्ठाय मृत्युञ्जयाय सर्वेश्वराय सदाशिवाय श्रीमन्महादेवाय नमः नमो हिरण्यभागवे सेनाग्ने दिशां च पतये नमो नमो वृक्षेभ्यो हरिकेशेभ्यः पशूनां पतये नमो नमः सत्पिञ्जराय त्रिशीमते पथीनां पतये नमो नमो बभ्लुषाय विव्याधिनेन्नानां पतये नमो नमो हरिकेशायोपवीतिने पुष्टानां पतये नमो नमो भवस्य हेत्यै जगतां पतये नमो नमो रुद्राय तथा विनेक्षेत्राणां पतये नमो नमः सूताय हन्त्याय वनानां पतये नमो नमो रोहिताय स्तपतये वृक्षाणां पतये नमो नमो मन्त्रिणे वाणिजाय कक्षाणां पतये नमो नमो भुवन्तये वारिवस्कृतायौषधीनां पतये नमो नम उच्चैर्घोषाय क्रन्दयते पत्तीनां पतये नमो नमः कृत्स्नवेताय धावते सत्त्वनां पतये नमः नमः सगमानाय निव्याधिन अव्याधिनीनां पतये नमो नमः ककुभाय निषङ्गिणे सेनानां पतये नमो नमो निषङ्गिणगिषुधिमते तत्कराणां पतये नमो नमो वञ्जते परिवञ्जते स्थायूनां पतये नमो नमो निचेरवे परिचरायारण्यानां पतये नमो नमः श्रिकाविभ्यो जिगागुं सद्भ्यो मुष्णतां पतये नमो नमो सिमद्भ्यो नक्तं जरद्भ्यः प्रकृन्तानां पतये नमो नम उष्णीषिणे गिरिचराय कुलुञ्जानां पतये नमो नम गिषुमद्भ्यो तन्वाविभ्यश्च वो नमो नम आतन्वानेभ्यः प्रतिदधानेभ्यश्च वो नमो नम आयच्छद्भ्यो विसृजद्भ्यश्च वो नमो नमोऽस्यद्भ्यो विद्यद्भ्यश्च वो नमो नम आसेनेभ्यः शयानेभ्यश्च वो नमो नमः स्वपद्भ्यो जाग्रद्भ्यश्च वो नमो नमः तिष्ठद्भ्यो धावद्भ्यश्च वो नमो नमः सभाभ्यः सभापतिभ्यश्च वो नमो नमो अश्वेभ्यो श्वपतिभ्यश्च वो नमः नम आव्याधिनीभ्यो विविध्यन्तेभ्यश्च वो नमो नम उगणाभ्यस्त्रिगुंहतेभ्यश्च वो नमो नमो गृत्सेभ्यो गृत्सपतिभ्यश्च वो नमो नमो व्रातेभ्यो व्रातपतिभ्यश्च वो नमो नमो गणेभ्यो गणपतिभ्यश्च वो नमो नमो विरूपेभ्यो विश्वरूपेभ्यश्च वो नमो नमो महद्भ्यः क्षुल्लकेभ्यश्च वो नमो नमो रथेभ्यो रथेभ्यश्च वो नमो नमो रथेभ्यो रथपतिभ्यश्च वो नमो नमः सेनाकाभ्यस्तेनानिभ्यश्च वो नमो नमः क्षत्रभ्यः संग्रहेतृभ्यश्च वो नमो नमः तक्षद्भ्यो रथकारेभ्यश्च वो नमो नमः कुलालेभ्यः कर्मारेगेभ्यश्च वो नमो नमः पुञ्जिष्टेभ्यो निषादेभ्यश्च वो नमो नमः गिषुकृद्भ्यो धन्वकृद्भ्यश्च वो नमो नमो मृगयोभ्यश्वनेभ्यश्च वो नमो नमः श्वभ्यश्वपतिभ्यश्च वो नमः नमो भवाय च रुद्राय च नमः शर्वाय च पशुपतये च नमो नीलग्रीवाय च शितिकण्ठाय च नमः कपर्दिने च युक्तकेशाय च नमः सहस्राक्षाय च शतधन्वने च नमो गिरिशाय च शिपिविष्टाय च नमो मेडुट्टमाय चेषुमते च नमो ह्रस्वाय च वामनाय च नमो बृहते च वर्षीयसे च नमो वृद्धाय च संवृध्वने च नमो अग्र्याय च प्रथवाय च नमः आचवे चाजिराय च नमः शीघ्रियाय च शीभ्याय च नमः ऊर्म्याय च वस्वन्याय च नमः श्रोतस्याय च द्वीप्याय च नमो ज्येष्ठाय च कनिष्ठाय च नमः पूर्वजाय च परजाय च नमो मध्यभाग्य च पगल्भाग्य च नमो जगन्याय च बुद्ध्याय च नमः सोऽभ्याय च प्रतिसद्याय च नमो ज्ञाम्याय च क्षेम्याय च नमः उर्वत्याय च खल्याय च नमः श्लोक्याय च वसान्याय च नमो वन्याय च कक्ष्याय च नमः श्रवाय च प्रतिश्रवाय च नमः आशुषेणाय च आशुरधाय च नमः शूराय च वविन्दते च नमो वर्मिणे च वरोधिने च नमो बिल्मिने च कवचिने च नमः श्रुताय च श्रुतसेनाय च नमो दुन्दुभ्याय च कनन्याय च नमो दृष्णवे च प्रमृषाय च नमो दूताय च प्रहिताय च नमो निषङ्गिणे चेक्षुधिमते च नमः तीक्ष्णे शवे च युधिने च नमः स्वायुधाय च सुधन्वने च नमः श्रुत्याय च पत्याय च नमः काट्याय च नीप्याय च नमः सोद्याय च सरस्याय च नमो नाद्याय च वैशन्ताय च नमः कोप्याय च वट्याय च नमो वर्ष्याय च वर्ष्याय च नमो मेघ्याय च विद्युत्याय च नमः ईद्रियाय च तप्याय च नमो वात्याय च रेश्म्याय च नमो वास्तव्याय च वास्तुपाय च ॐ हर 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 ॐ नमः सोमाय च रुद्राय च नमः ताम्राय च रुणाय च नमः शङ्गाय च पशुपतये च नमः उग्राय च भीमाय च नमो अग्रे वधाय च दूरे वधाय च नमो हन्त्रे च हनीयसे च नमो वृक्षेभ्यो हरिकेशेभ्यो नमः ताराय नमः शम्भवे च मयो भवे च नमः शङ्कराय च मयस्कराय च नमः शिवाय च शिवतराय च नमः तीर्थ्याय च कोड्याय च नमः पाद्याय च वाद्याय च नमः प्रतरणाय चोत्तरणाय च नमः आताद्याय च लाद्याय च नमः षष्ठ्याय च भेन्याय च नमः सिकत्याय च प्रवाक्याय च नमः हिरण्याय च प्रपथ्याय च नमः किगुंशिलाय च क्षयणाय च नमः कपर्दिने च पुलस्तये च नमो गोष्ठ्याय च गृह्याय च नमः तल्प्याय च गेक्याय च नमः काट्याय जगक्वरेष्टाय च नमो हृदयाय च निवेष्ट्याय च नमः पागुंसव्याय च रजस्याय च नमः शुष्क्याय च हरित्याय च नमो लोप्याय चोलप्याय च नमः ऊर्ध्याय च सोर्म्याय च नमः पर्ण्याय च पर्णछद्याय च नमो भगुरमाणाय च विघ्नते च नमः आखिदते च प्रखिदते च नमो वत्किरिकेभ्यो देवानागं हृदयेभ्यो नमो विक्षेणकेभ्यो नमो विचिन्वत्केभ्यो नमः आनिर्हतेभ्यो नमः आमीवत्केभ्यः द्रापे अन्धसत्पते दरिद्रन्नीललोहिता येषां पुरुषाणां येषां पशूनां मा भेर्मा रोमो येषां किञ्चना ममत् या ते रुद्रशिवा तनो शिवा विश्वाखभेषजे शिवा रुद्रस्य भेषजेतया नो मृडजीवसेके इमागुं रुद्राय तवसे कपर्दिने क्षयद्वीराय प्रभरामहे मतिम् यथा नश्यमसद्विपदे चतुष्पदे विश्वं पुष्टं ग्रामे अस्मिन्ननातुरम् मृडानो रुद्रोतनो मयत्कृति क्षयद्वीराय नमसा विधेमते यच्चं च योश्च मनुराय जे पिता तदस्यामतव रुद्र प्रणीतो मानो महान्तमुत मानो अर्भकं मान उक्षन्तमुत मान उक्षितम् मानोपदे पितरं मोत मातरं प्रियामानस्तनुवो रुद्ररीरिषः मानस्तोके तनगे मान आयुषि मानो गोषु मानो अश्वेषु रीरिषः वीरान्मानो रुद्रभामिदो वदेर्हविष्मन्तो नमसा विधेमते आरात्ते गोघ्रमुत पोरुषग्ने क्षयद्वीराय सुम्नमस्मेते अस्तु रक्षाजनो अधिजदेव ब्रूह्यथा जनः शर्म यच्चद्विबरुहाकाः स्तुभिः श्रुतं कर्तसतं युवानं मृगन्न भीममुपहतृमुग्रम् मृडाजरिद्रे रुद्रस्तवानो अन्यन्ते अस्मन्निवपन्तु सेनागाः परिणो रुद्रस्य केतर्वृणक्तु परित्वेषस्य दुर्मदिरघायोः अवस्थिरा मगवद्भ्यस्तनुष्वमीढस्तोकायतनयाय मृडया मेढुष्टमशिवतमशिवो नः सुमना भव परमे वृक्ष आयुधन्निधाय कृत्यं वसानमाचर पिनाकं बिभ्रतागहि विकिरित विलोकित नमस्ते अस्तु भगवः यास्ते सहस्रगुं हेतयोऽन्यमत्मन्निवपन्तु ताः सहस्राणि सहस्रदा बाहुवोस्तव हेतयः तासामीशानो भगवः पराचेनामुखाकृते सहस्राणि सहस्रशोगे रुद्रा अधिभूम्याकाम् तेषागुं सहस्रयोजने वधन्वानि तन्मसि अस्मिन्महत्यर्णवेगेऽन्तरिक्षे भवा अधि नीलग्रीवाचितिकण्ठाका चर्वा अधः क्षमाचराः नीलग्रीवाचितिकण्ठादिवगुं रुद्रा उपश्रिताः ये वृक्षेषु सस्मिञ्जरा नीलग्रीवा विलोहिताः ये भूतानामधिपतयो विशिखासः कपर्दिनः ये अन्नेषु विविद्यन्ति पात्रेषु पिपदो जनान् ये पथां पतिरक्षय ऐलप्रदायव्युतः ये तीर्थानि प्रचरन्ति सृगावन्तो निषङ्गिणः य एतावन्तश्च भूयागुंसश्च दिशो रुद्रावितस्तिरे तेषागुं सहस्रयोजने वधन्वानि तन्मसि नमो रुद्रेभ्यो ये पृथिव्यां ये गेऽन्तरिक्षे ये दिवि ये शावन्नं वातो वरुषमिषव तेभ्यो दश प्राचेर्दश दक्षिणा दश प्रतीचेर्दशोदेचेर्दशोर्ध्वास्तेभ्यो नमः तेनो मृडयन्तु ते यं विष्मो यश्च नो द्वेष्टितं भोज दधामि त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनान् मृत्योर्मुक्षे यवामृताकात् यो रुद्रो अग्नव्यो अप्सु य ओषधेषु यो रुद्रो विश्वा भुवना विवेश तस्मै रुद्राय नमो अस्तु एते सहस्रमयुतं पाशा मृत्यो मर्त्याय हन्तवे तान् यज्ञस्य मायया सर्वानवयजामहे मृत्यवेत् स्वाहा मृत्यवेत् स्वाहा प्राणानां ग्रन्थिरसि रुद्रो मा विशान्तकः तेनान्येनाप्यायस्व नमो रुद्राय विष्णवे मृत्युर्मे पाहि तमुस्तु हि यस्वशस्तु तन्वायो विश्वस्य क्षयति भेषजस्य यक्ष्वाकामहेतो मनसाय रुद्रन्नमोभिर्देवमसुरन्दुवस्य अयं मे हस्तो भगवानयं मे भगवत्तरः अयं मे विश्वभेगे तजो यगं शिवाभिमरुषणः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ अग्ना विष्णो सजोषसे मा वर्धन्तु वाङ्गिरः द्युम्नैर्वाचेभिरागतं वाजश्च मे प्रसवश्च मे प्रयतिश्च मे प्रसितिश्च मे धीतिश्च मे क्रतुश्च मे स्वरश्च मे श्लोकश्च मे श्रावश्च मे श्रुतिश्च मे ज्योतिश्च मे सुवश्च मे प्राणश्च मे पानश्च मे व्यानश्च मे सुश्च मे चित्तं च महाधीतं च मे वाक् मे मनश्च मे चक्षुश्च मे श्रोत्रं च मे दक्षश्च मे बलं च ओजश्च मे सहश्च म आयुश्च मे जरा च म आत्मा च मे तनोश्च मे शर्म च मे वर्म च मे अंगानि च मे स्थानि च मे परोगुंसि च मे शरीराणि च मे जैष्ठ्यं च आधिपत्यं च मे मन्युश्च मे भामश्च मे मच्च मे म्भश्च मे जेवा च मे भगिवा च मे वरिवा च मे प्रतिभा च मे वर्ष्मा च मे द्राकुया च मे वृद्धं च मे वृद्धिश्च मे सत्यं च मे श्रद्धा च मे जगच्च मे धनं च मे वचश्च मे तुषिश्च मे क्रीडा च मे मोदश्च मे जातं च मे जनिष्यमाणं च मे सूक्तं च मे सुकृतं च मे वित्तं च मे वेद्यं च मे भूतं च मे भविष्यच्च मे सुगं च मे सुपथं च मरुद्धं च मरुद्धिश्च मे कृक्तं च मे कृक्तिश्च मे मतिश्च मे सुमतिश्च मे शञ्च मे मयश्च मे प्रियं च मे नुकामश्च मे कामश्च मे सौमनसश्च मे भद्रं च मे श्रेयश्च मे वस्यश्च मे यशश्च मे भगश्च मे द्रविणं च मे यन्ता च मे धर्ता च मे क्षेमश्च मे धृतिश्च मे विश्वं च मे महश्च मे संविच्च मे ज्ञात्रं च मे सोश्च मे प्रसोश्च मे सीरं च मे लयश्च मरुतं च मे मृतं च मे यक्ष्मं च मे नामयश्च मे जीवातुश्च मे दीर्घायुत्वं च मे नमित्रं च मे भयं च मे सुखं च मे सुपतं च मे सूषा च मे सुदिनं च मे ऊक् च मे सूनृता च मे पयश्च मे रसश्च मे घृतं च मे
मधु च मे शक्तिश्च मे सपेतिश्च मे कृषिश्च मे वृष्टिश्च मे जैत्रं च औद्भिद्यं च मे रयिश्च मे रायश्च मे पुष्टं च मे पुष्टिश्च मे विभु च मे
प्रभु च मे बहु च मे भूयश्च मे पूर्णं च मे पूर्णतरं च मे क्षितिश्च मे कोयवाच्च मे नं च मे सुच्च मे व्रेहयश्च मे यवाकाश्च मे माशाकाश्च मे तिलाश्च मे मुद्गाश्च मे खल्वाकाश्च मे गोधूमाश्च मे मसुराश्च मे प्रियङ्गवश्च मे नवश्च मे श्यामाकाश्च मे नीवाराश्च मे अस्मा च मे मृत्तिका च मे गिरयश्च मे पर्वताश्च मे सिकताश्च मे वनस्पतयश्च मे हिरण्यं च मे यश्च मे शेषं च मे त्रपुश्च मे श्यामं च मे लोहं च म अग्निश्च म आपश्च मे विरुधश्च म ओषधयश्च मे कृष्णपच्यं च मे कृष्णपच्यं च मे ग्राम्याच्च मे पशव आरण्याच्च यज्ञेन कल्पन्ता वित्तं च मे वित्तिश्च मे भूतं च मे भूतिश्च मे वसु च मे वसतिश्च मे कर्म च मे शक्तिश्च म अर्थश्च म हेमश्च म हितिश्च मे गतिश्च मे अग्निश्च महीन्द्रश्च मे सोमश्च महीन्द्रश्च मे सविता च महीन्द्रश्च मे सरस्वती च महीन्द्रश्च मे पूषा च महीन्द्रश्च मे बृहस्पतिश्च महीन्द्रश्च मे मित्रश्च महीन्द्रश्च मे वरुणश्च महीन्द्रश्च मे त्वष्टा च महीन्द्रश्च मे धाता च महीन्द्रश्च मे विष्णुश्च महीन्द्रश्च मे चिनौ च महीन्द्रश्च मे मरुतश्च महीन्द्रश्च मे विश्वे च मे देवागिन्द्रश्च मे पृथिवी च महीन्द्रश्च मे तरिक्षं च महीन्द्रश्च मे द्यौश्च महीन्द्रश्च मे दिशश्च महीन्द्रश्च मे मूर्धा च महीन्द्रश्च मे प्रजापतिश्च महीन्द्रश्च मे अगुंसुश्च मे रश्मिश्च मे धाकाभ्यश्च मे धिपतिश्च म उपागुंसुश्च मेऽन्तर्यामश्च म ऐन्द्रवायवश्च मे मैत्रावरुणश्च म आश्विनश्च मे प्रतिप्रस्थानश्च मे शुक्रश्च मे मन्धे च म आग्रयणश्च मे वैश्वदेवश्च मे ध्रुवश्च मे वैश्वानरश्च म ऋतुग्रहाश्च मे ते ग्राह्याश्च म ऐन्द्राग्नश्च मे वैश्वदेवश्च मे मरुत्वदीयागाश्च मे माहेन्द्रश्च म आदित्यश्च मे सावित्रश्च मे सारस्वतश्च मे पौष्णश्च मे वात्मीवतश्च मे हार्योजनश्च मे इत्मश्च मे बर्हिश्च मे वेदिश्च मे धिष्णियाश्च मे सृचश्च मे चमसाश्च मे ग्रावाणश्च मे स्वरवश्च म उपरवाश्च मे धिषवणे च मे द्रोणकलशश्च मे वायव्यानि च मे बोधभृच्च म आधपनीयश्च च आग्नेयेर्दं च मे हविर्दानं च मे गृहाश्च मे सतश्च मे प्रोडाशाश्च मे पचताश्च मे वभृतश्च मे स्वकाकारश्च मे अग्निश्च मे घर्मश्च मेऽर्कश्च मे सूर्यश्च मे प्राणश्च मे श्वमेधश्च मे पृथिवी च मे दितिश्च मे दितिश्च मे द्यौश्च मे शक्वरेरङ्कुलयो दिशश्च मे यज्ञेन कल्पन्तामृच्च मे साम च मे स्तोमश्च मे यजुश्च मे दीक्षा च मे तपश्च मरुतश्च मे व्रतं च मे होरात्रयोर्वृष्ट्या बृहद्रदं तरे च मे यज्ञेन कल्पेताम् गर्भाश्च मे वत्साश्च मे त्ययविश्च मे त्ययवे च मे दित्यवाक्च मे दित्यौहे च मे पञ्चाविश्च मे पञ्चावे च मे त्रिवत्सश्च मे त्रिवत्सा च मे तुर्यवाक्च मे तुर्यौहे च मे पट्टवाक्च मे पट्टौहे च म उक्षा च मे वचा च मरुषभश्च मे देहश्च मे नड्वाङ्च मे धेनुश्च म आयुर्यज्ञेन कल्पतां प्राणो यज्ञेन कल्पतामपानो यज्ञेन कल्पतां व्यानो यज्ञेन कल्पतां चक्षुर्यज्ञेन कल्पताग श्रोत्रं यज्ञेन कल्पतां मनो यज्ञेन कल्पतां वाक् यज्ञेन कल्पतामात्मा यज्ञेन कल्पतां यज्ञो यज्ञेन कल्पताम् एका च मे तिस्रश्च मे पञ्च च मे सप्त च मे नव च एकादश च मे त्रयोदश च मे पञ्चदश च मे सप्तदश च मे नवदश च महेकविंशतिश्च मे त्रयोविंशतिश्च मे पञ्चविंशतिश्च मे सप्तविंशतिश्च मे नवविंशतिश्च महेकत्रिंशच्च मे त्रयस्त्रिंशच्च मे चतस्रश्च मेष्टौ च मे द्वादश च मे षोडश च मे विंशतिश्च मे चतुर्विंशतिश्च मेष्टाविंशतिश्च मे द्वात्रिंशच्च मे षट्त्रिंशच्च मे चत्वारिंशच्च मे चतुश्चत्वारिंशच्च मे अष्टाचत्वारिंशच्च मे वाजश्च प्रसवश्चापिजश्च क्रतुश्च सुवश्च मूर्धा च व्यस्त्ययच्चान्त्याज्ञनश्चान्त्यश्च भुवनश्च भुवनश्चाधिपतिश्च इडादे बकुर्मनुर्यज्ञने बृहस्पतिरुद्धामदानि शगुंसिष विश्वे देवासोऽर्तवाच पृथिवीमातिर्मामाहिगुंसेर्मधुमदिष्ये मधुजनिष्ये मधुवक्ष्यामि मधुवदिष्यामि मधुमते देवेभ्यो वाचमुद्यासगं शुश्रूषेण्या मनुष्येभ्यस्तं मा देवा अवन्तु शोभागे पितरोऽनुमदन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ
तच्छयोरावृणीमहे गातुं यज्ञाय गातुं यज्ञपतये दैवी स्वस्तिरस्तु नः स्वस्तिर्मानुषेभ्यः ऊर्ध्वं जिगातु भेषजं शन्नो अस्तु द्विपदे शं चतुष्पदे
ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ सहस्रशीरुषा पुरुषः सहस्राक्षः सहस्रपात् स भूमिं विश्वतो वृत्वा अत्यतिष्ठद्दशाङ्गुलम् पुरुष एवेदगुं सर्वम् यद्भूतं यच्च भव्यम् उतावृतत्वस्येषानः यदन्नेनातिरोहते एतावानस्य महिमा अतो ज्यायागश्च पौरुषः पादोऽस्य विश्वाभूतानि त्रिपादस्यामृतं दिवे त्रिपादोर्ध्व उतैः पुरुषः पादोऽस्येकाभवात् पुनः ततो विश्वं व्यक्रामत् शासनानशने अभि तस्मात् विराट जायत विराजो अधिपौरुषः स जातो अत्यरिच्यत पश्चात् भूमिमतो पुरः यत्पुरुषेण हविषागा देवा यज्ञमतन्वत वसन्तो अस्यासीदाज्यम् ग्रीष्मगित्मच्छरद्धविः सप्तास्यासन् परिधयः त्रिसप्तसमिधः कृताः देवा यज्ञं तन्वानाः अपध्रन् पुरुषं पशुं तैयज्ञं बर्हिषि प्रोक्षन् पुरुषं जातमग्रतः तेन देवा अयजन्त साध्या ऋषयश्चये तस्माद्यज्ञात् सर्वहुतः संहृतं वृषदाज्यं पशोगस्तागश्चक्रे वायव्यान् आरण्यान् ग्राम्याश्चये तस्माद्यज्ञात् सर्वहुतः रुचः सामानि जज्ञिरे छन्दागुंसि जज्ञिरे तस्मात् यजुस्तस्मादजायत तस्मादश्वा अजायन्त एकेचो भयातदः गावो जज्ञिरे तस्मात् तस्माज्जाता अजावयः यत्पुरुषं व्यदधुः कथिता व्यकल्पयन् मुखं किमस्य कौ बाहु कावूरोपादावुच्येते ब्राह्मणोऽस्य मुखमासीत् बाहुराजन्यकृतः ओरो तदस्य यद्वैश्यः पद्भ्यागुं शूद्रो अजायत चन्द्रमा मनसो जातः चक्षुः सूर्यो अजायत मुखातिन्द्रस्याग्निश्च प्राणात् वायुरजायत नाभ्या आसीदन्तरिक्षं शीर्ष्णोद्यौ समवर्तत पद्भ्यां भूमिर्दिशश्रोत्रागात् तथा लोकागुम्मकल्पयन् वेदाहमेतं पुरुषं महान्तम् आदित्यवर्णं तमसस्तु पारे सर्वाणि रूपाणि विचित्य धीरः नामानि कृत्वाभिवदन् यदा ते धाता पुरस्ताद्यमुदा जहार शक्रप्रविद्वान् प्रतिशश्चतस्रः तमेवं विद्वान् अमृत इह भवते नान्यपन्था अयनाय विद्यते यज्ञेन यज्ञमयजन्त देवाः तानि धर्माणि प्रथमान्यासन् ते हनाकम् महिमानः सजन्ते यत्र पूर्वे साध्यात् सन्ति देवाः अभ्यस्सम्भूत पृथिव्यैरसागाच्च विश्वकर्मणः समवर्तताधे तस्य त्वष्टा विदधद्रूपमेते तत्पुरुषस्य विश्वमाजानमग्रे वेदाहमेतं पुरुषं महान्तम् आदित्यवर्णं तमसः परस्तात् तमेवं विद्वानमृत इह भवति नान्यपन्था विद्यते यनाय प्रजापतिश्चरति गर्भे अन्तः अजायमानो बहुधा विजायते तस्य धीरा परिजानन्ति योनिम् मरीचीनां पदमिच्छन्ति वेधसः यो देवेभ्य आतपति यो देवानां पुरोहितः पूर्वो यो देवेभ्यो जातः नमो रुचाय ब्राह्मये रुचं ब्राह्मं जनयन्तः देवा अग्रे तदब्रुवन् यस्त्वैवं ब्राह्मणो विद्यात् तस्य देवा असन्वशेके ह्रीच्यते लक्ष्मीश्च पत्न्यो अहोरात्रे पार्श्वे नक्षत्राणि रूपम् अश्विनौ व्यात्तम् इष्टं मनीषाणाम् अमुं मनीषाणाम् सर्वं मनीषाणाम् तच्छयोरावृणीमहे गातुं यज्ञाय गातुं यज्ञपतये
दैवे स्वस्तिरस्तु नः स्वस्तिर्मानुषेभ्यः
ऊर्ध्वं जिगातु भेषजम् शन्नो अस्तु द्विपदेके शं चतुष्पदे ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ अत्रिणात्वा कृमे हन्मे कण्वेन जमदग्निना विश्वावसोर्ब्रह्मणा घतः कृमीणागुं राजाका अप्येषागस्तपतिर्हतः अधो माताधो पिता अधो स्तूरा अधो क्षुद्रा अधो कृष्णा अधो श्वेता अधो आशातिका हताः श्वेताभिः सह सर्वे हताः आखरावद्य श्रुतस्य हविषो यथाका तत्सत्यं यदमुय्यमस्य जम्भयोः आदधामि तथा हि तत् खण्भण्म्रसे ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ योपां पुष्पं वेद पुष्पवान् प्रजावान् पशुमान् भवति चन्द्रमा वा अपां पुष्पं पुष्पवान् प्रजावान् पशुमान् भवति य एवं वेद योपामायतनं वेद आयतनवान् भवति अग्निर्वा अपामायतनम् आयतनवान् भवति यो अग्निरायतनं वेद आयतनवान् भवति आपो वा अग्निरायतनम् आयतनवान् भवति य एवं वेद योपामायतनं वेद आयतनवान् भवति वायुर्वा अपामायतनम् आयतनवान् भवति यो वायोरायतनं वेद आयतनवान् भवति आपो वै वायोरायतनम् आयतनवान् भवति य एवं वेद योपामायतनं वेद आयतनवान् भवति असौ वै तपन्नपामायतनम् आयतनवान् भवति यो मुह्यतपत आयतनं वेद आयतनवान् भवति आपो वा अमुह्यतपत आयतनम् आयतनवान् भवति य एवं वेद योपामायतनं वेद आयतनवान् भवति चन्द्रमा वा अपामायतनम् आयतनवान् भवति यश्चन्द्रमस आयतनं वेद आयतनवान् भवति आपो वै चन्द्रमस आयतनम् आयतनवान् भवति य एवं वेद योपामायतनं वेद आयतनवान् भवति नक्षत्राणि वा अपामायतनम् आयतनवान् भवति यो नक्षत्राणामायतनं वेद आयतनवान् भवति आपो वै नक्षत्राणामायतनम् आयतनवान् भवति य एवं वेद योपामायतनं वेद आयतनवान् भवति पर्जन्यो वा अपामायतनम् आयतनवान् भवति यः पर्जन्यस्यायतनं वेद आयतनवान् भवति आपो वै पर्जन्यस्यायतनम् आयतनवान् भवति य एवं वेद योपामायतनं वेद आयतनवान् भवति संवत्सरो वा अपामायतनम् आयतनवान् भवति यत्संवत्सरस्यायतनं वेद आयतनवान् भवति आपो वै संवत्सरस्यायतनम् आयतनवान् वेद प्रत्येव तिष्ठति राजाधिराजाय प्रसज्ञसास्य महादेवस्य धीमहि तन्नो रुद्र प्रचोदयात् तत्पुरुषाय विद्महे महादेवाय धीमहि तन्नो रुद्र प्रचोदयात् तत्पुरुषाय विद्महे वक्रतुण्डाय धीमहि तन्नो दन्ति प्रचोदयात् तत्पुरुषाय विद्महे चक्रकात् तत्पुरुषाय विद्महे महासेनाय धीमहि तन्नः षण्मुखः प्रचोदयात् सुवर्णपक्षाय धीमहि तन्नो गरुड प्रचोदयात् वेदात्मोदयात् नारायणाय विद्महे वासुदेवाय धीमहि तन्नो विष्णुः प्रचोदयात् वज्रनखाय विद्महे तीक्ष्णदग्ष्ट्राय धीमहि तन्नो नारसिंहः प्रचोदयात् भास्कराय विद्महे महद्युतिकराय धीमहि तन्नो आदित्यः प्रचोदयात् वैश्वानराय विद्महे नालीलाय धीमहि तन्नो अग्निः प्रचोदयात् कात्यायनाय विद्महे कन्याकुमारी धीमहि तन्नो दुर्गे प्रचोदयात् ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात् देवेष्टके विदेम हविषा वयम् अश्वक्रान्ते रथक्रान्ते विष्णुक्रान्ते वसुन्धरा शिरसा धारयिष्यामि रक्षस्व मां पदे पदे जातवेदसे सुनवामसो ममरति यतो निदहाति वेदः स नः पर्षदति दुर्गाणि विश्वा नावेव सिन्धुं दुरितात्यग्निः तामग्निवर्णां तपसा ज्वलन्तीं वैरोचनीं कर्मफलेषु जुष्टाम् दुर्गां देवीं शरणमहं प्रपद्ये सुतरसे तरसे नमः अग्ने त्वं कारयि तद्विष्णोर्परमं पदगुं सदा पश्यन्ति सूरयः दिवेव चक्षुराततं तद्विप्रासो विपन्यवो जागृवागुं सत्समिन्धते विष्णोर्यत्परमं धीमहि तन्नो विष्णुः प्रचोदयात् तत्पुरुषाय विद्महे महादेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात् हंस हंसाय विद्महे परमहंसाय धीमहि तन्नो हंस प्रचोदयात् न कर्मणा न प्रजया धनेन त्यागितं गुहायां विभ्राजते यदयो विशद् यदयशुद्धसत्त्वागाः ते ब्रह्मलोके तु परान्तकाले परामृतात् परिमुच्यन्ते सर्वे दग्रं विपापं परमेश्वभूतं यत्पुण्डरीकं पुरमद्य सग्गस्थं तत्राभिदग्रं गगनं विशोक तस्मिन् यदन्तस्तदुपासितव्यं यो वेदादौ तस्य प्रगतिलेन यः परस्वमहेश्वरः आगेन मार्गेण महीं महिषाः गो ब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यं समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
Oh Sairam, I bow down with most loving pranams at the divine feet of Swami that is installed in the hearts of each of you. At the outset, I pray for Swami's blessings for this event. Next, on behalf of all of us, I express our deep thankfulness to the District President, Chennai Metro West, Sri Suresh Chandar, and the organizing team, the technical team, everyone, for another satsang treat that jades our spiritual palate. And for the opportunity to introduce one of my top teenage time favorites. Now, Dr. Rupak Changkakoti. The COVID pandemic brought about closure of some businesses. It fostered work from home practices that most don't seem to prefer that much. Shops got closed. Schools still closed. No sports. So many activities came to a standstill, except one, the mission of the Sai Avatar. Non-stop heightened service activities to help those affected by COVID, medical supplies, healthcare, Amrita Kalasam grocery kit distribution, and also unprecedented series of satsang sharing across the globe. Never has so much satsang happened, that too when the rest of the world had quietened and been tied down by the situation. Bhagwan's mission is a phenomenon that is destined to happen, has happened, is happening, and will happen. Greater names pop up as satsangs roll on. I had the opportunity actually to introduce Rupak Changkakoti a month ago, Rupak's brother. Dear Sai brothers and sisters, it is a double delight for me to also introduce today Dr. Rupak Changkakoti. Briefly recalling my days in Sundaram Bhajan group, when I was in the Bhajan group, I don't want to take too much time. I used to keep tabs on the student singers of Brindavan, and Rupak was one of the superstars. I mean, anything about Rupak, everything about Rupak. Swami says, Rupak, Rupak, I can still hear that tone in my ears. Honestly, I've heard that. So I was envious, I was happy, and I used to, hear that name and used to really, respect it a lot. Okay. And so I used to listen to his bhajans on tape. Those days it was only tapes. And I used to try to imitate how he was singing. Okay. And he came with Swami to Chennai in early 80s. In fact, if possible, I'm going to request Rupak to say a few words on that visit. I was watching him with complete awe at that time. And as soon as Swami came, everybody came. They had the Purna Kumbham, everything. Swami went inside and Rupak sat under the sun, under the lotus, the Sundaram lotus. And Rupak was asked to sing by Swami. And that was the first time I heard the song Sundara Vadana by Rupak in front of the lotus. And he sang with Alap, starting Dayakro Bhagwan. And it was total bliss. I was at awe, it was total bliss. I can still remember all those things, vividly. I can say no more. And I will leave it at that because there is so much to say. I cannot afford to say that now. So now I'll get back into introducing Rupak after so many decades. Getting there is a blessing. A few words of introduction about Rupak. Dr. Rupak Changkakoti was blessed to stay with Swami for 15 years, 15 long years. He had a room next to Swami, both in Brindavan and in Prasanthi Nilayam. While staying with Swami, he finished his MSc at Bangalore University and Ph.D. from Indian Institute of Science. He has been in Canada and United States for the last 30 years. 1972, he went to Sathya Sai Seva Dal when Purna Chandra was constructed. 1973, summer course student in Brindavan. Every day, he used to do bhajans there, sing in the bhajans. 1974, August, straight entry into the college without any interview in Brindavan campus for undergraduation. He continued post-graduation, PhD, in the physical proximity of our Bhagwan. 1975, Dashera time, when he was having typhoid and when his fever was not subsiding, Swami shifted Rupak to Puttaparthi, made him stay in the Mandir interview room. He ordered special food. He took care as a father and a mother, not like a father and a mother, as a father and a mother. One day he had very high fever, which Swami took upon himself from Rupak. Swami got fever and Rupak had no fever from that moment onwards. During the years, he received direct guidance from Swami on many occasions. As a student, he was an accomplished singer and actor and participated in many musical programs and plays presented to Swami. Swami himself directed him in plays on Shankaracharya and Jesus Christ. In 1975, Swami took him to Mumbai for Shankaracharya play at Shanmukhananda Hall. He accompanied Bhagwan on many trips, including the memorable Kashmir trip. In 1981, Dr. Rupak was blessed by Swami to render Sai Katha, Sai Story, the divine life story of Swami, his avatarhood, along with playback singer P. Sushila in Chennai. Swami did Upanyasam for his elder brother Deepak and for Rupak and his younger brother Hirok. Amazing. Presently, he is senior technical program manager and is engaged in cutting edge technology of very high power fiber lasers. He now lives very near Washington, D.C. in Virginia. Without much ado, I'm going to turn it over to Rupak quickly so that you get more of his time. Thank you, Sairam.
Sairam, everybody, thank you so much for such a glorious introduction. And I'm not sure whether I deserve it. It's all Swami's grace and blessings that I'm here today, not only as a human being, but as his favorite student. And it is a very, very long journey. So actually, I can go on speaking for hours, but the time is short, so I'll keep it as brief as possible. My journey started in around late 60s when we were in Shillong. My father was in government service, central government service, and he was stationed in Shillong, the All India Radio, and he was deputy station director. So we moved to Shillong from Delhi, and there it so happened that Swami has his ways, which we can really not rationalize. So he has his own ways to bring people close to him. And it so happened that one of our relatives, my mother's cousin sister, had organized a bhajan at her house. And she was also very new to the Sai circle, so she invited us. And in Assam and Eastern India, most of the forms of worship is singing. What do you call? They call it bor geets, which means long songs or big songs, and it is kind of glorifying God's name, because that is like when the Bhakti movement started in Assam, that was the form of worship. So father was a very good singer. Mother was also my mother also was a very good singer. She was a radio artist as well. So we were invited, but thinking that it's one of those kirtans, we lighted up late. By the time we lighted up, the bhajan was all over and prasad was being distributed. So we had prasad, and we met the person who was organizing. There was an Air Force officer called Panikar, who was still there. And he said, "Don't worry, you missed the bhajan today. You could always come to the next one." So he gave us the address and he gave us the direction to come to the next bhajan. And we landed up in that bhajan. And so happened that after the bhajan, we were on time that day. We were not late. So after the bhajan was over, he comes straight to my mom, my mother, and he gives a picture of Swami. It was about this big picture, small picture. He said, frame it and put it in your altar. And that's exactly what we did. We immediately went and got it framed and put it in our altar. Now, our altar was in like it was like a wall come some places to keep different gods pictures, and we had Shiva, Krishna, all different gods pictures, as well as Ramakrishna Paramhamsa, and all the different gods pictures. And Swami's picture we hung on the wall. So what happened was a week or so later, we were we had the practice of, in our family we always had the practice of getting together in the evening, sitting around God's pictures and singing kirtan, which is not bhajans, but kirtans, like, or even some film bhajans. And it was a weekend, so it was in the morning. We sat together around 11 o'clock or so in the morning, and we started singing bhajans. When we started singing bhajans, somewhere in between, in the middle of the bhajans, we started hearing footsteps. In Shillong, all the houses are built on wood. They have wooden floors. So we heard creaking sound of the wood, and we heard footsteps. And as soon as the footsteps came near the door was on our right side. There was a kind of a light, almost like a lamp, go around all the pictures. So when it went around, after we were all of us saw this light, and we were all very excited to see this very unique, very kind of exhilarating event. And after the bhajan was over, we went to all the pictures and saw it was all rolling with amrit. So it was actually, I even tasted a bit of it. It was very sweet. It was like nectar. Swami says amrit. So it's almost like Swami visiting our home. And then we started going to the bhajans, and then I started singing bhajans. So the first bhajan I sang in Sai Bhajan was this beautiful bhajan which Swami also sings. You can join me. Govinda Hare Gopal Hare He Gopi Gopabala Govinda
Govinda Hare Gopal Hare He Gopi Gopabala
Govinda Hare Gopal Hare He Murali Gana Lola Govinda
Govinda Hare Gopal Hare He Murali Gana Lola
Govinda Hare Gopal Hare He Radha Ramana Lola
Govinda Hare Gopal Hare He Radha Ramana Lola
Govinda Hare Gopal Hare He Murali Gana Lola
Govinda Hare Gopal Hare He Murali Gana Lola
Govinda Hare Gopal Hare He Gopi Gopabala. So this was the first bhajan I sang, and the gentleman Panikar, who was the main organizer of the bhajans, after the bhajan he comes and tells me that tears were rolling down his cheeks when he heard this bhajan, because he felt Swami's presence in the bhajan that day. So eventually, there was another occasion we used to go to different bhajans, and one such bhajan in and Shillong. This is all in Shillong, which is in Meghalaya now. And in one such bhajan, when I sang the bhajan, Vibhuti appeared on my coat, and because it is Shillong is pretty cold in the winter. I think it's the winter time. So these are kind of his visitations. He started showing his visitations time and again. and we then organized the bhajan at home. So we had a big kind of living room. We cleared all the furniture and we organized the bhajan there. And that evening, after we put back all the furniture back in its place, my elder brother Deepak was sitting there, and he literally saw Swami appear from on the window, like from bottom up, and he came running and saying, "Swami, Swami, Swami, Swami," and so that was another miracle that happened. So eventually, we started going to bhajans regularly, and we became very regular in bhajans. And then we moved to a city called Dibrugarh. And when we moved to Dibrugarh, we became very active Sai Samiti members. My father was the president of the Sai Samiti there, and he organized various. He used to, of course, bhajan was a regular weekly event, but also he organized state Sathya Sai state meet and all that. When we were in Dibrugarh, I had the opportunity to come to Puttaparthi during the Dasara time. Usually, a lot of Sevadal. I was in the Sevadal, and a lot of Sevadal members come during the Dasara time because there's so much activity, there's so much work to be done during the Dasara or the birthday. So I came along with that group, and well, in those days, Sevadal, I mean, even today, supposed to be very disciplined. So we are not supposed to touch Swami's feet when Swami is passing by, or leave your position or leave your post. So we had to kind of control the crowd and all that. But every time Swami would pass by, he'll stop in front of me and say, "Naam kya hai? Kahan se aaya?" So what's your name, and where have you come from? So I'll say, "My name is Rupak, and Assam se aaya." So he kept on asking that time and again during this trip. And then it used to be the Sevadal would one state unit would be allowed to sit in the veranda to get a closer darshan of Swami. So one of those days we had our chance. So Swami came right in front of me and he said, "Take namaskar." So I took namaskar. Again, he asked the same question. So this went on in the when I went to Puttaparthi. The following year, which is in 1973, I came to Brindavan for summer course. I was still in the 11th grade, or which used to be called first PU, first pre-university. We had 2-year pre-university. So I just finished my first pre-university and then came to the summer course. And summer course is I don't know whether you have been to summer course, but it's a beautiful event where you learn a lot about Hindu philosophy and all that. So every evening there is a bhajan, and Swami Swami comes to the bhajan, and then he'll sit in the chair there, and he will ask. What happens is whenever Swami comes to a bhajan, even if you are supposed to sing a bhajan, Swami kind of takes control when he comes and sits in the bhajan, and he'll say, "You sing, you sing, you sing," like that, you know. So I sang this bhajan. You could put the first bhajan. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Gopalam. That was the bhajan.
Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudamate, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam भज मूढमते सम्प्राप्ते सन्निहिते काले सम्प्राप्ते सन्निहिते काले नहि नहि रक्षति डुक्करणे नहि नहि रक्षति डुक्करणे भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते.
And Swami would come to the bhajans and he would repeatedly ask me to sing this. Even if I'm sitting at the back and it's not my turn, he said, he used to indicate with his finger, come front and sing. So I used to sing this bhajan very often. Like I must have sung about 5, 6, 7 times during the summer course. So, and again, he would ask the same, kahan se aaya, kya naam hai, time and again. So that's how he started. And when I came to summer course, I kind of made my mind up that I'll come and study in Brindavan, because that was the only college he was running that time. The university had not started. So I went back and finished my second PU, pre-university, and also actually at the same time I also applied for engineering college. There's an entrance exam those days for engineering. I passed the exam, but just before that, around March, April time frame, we had the state Sai conference, and we invited Dr. Gokak. Dr. Gokak was then the retired vice chancellor from Bangalore University, and he came as a chief guest for this conference. So when he came there, he gave a beautiful talk on Swami, and then I went and met him with my father, and I said that I would like to come and study in Brindavan. So he said, sure, you can come. You apply and come. And actually, it confirmed my wish to come to Brindavan, listening to Dr. Gokak and talking to him. Because after his retirement from the university vice chancellorship, he started serving Swami in Brindavan as a kind of overseeing the whole activity of the college. So, but it so happened that the college starts in June in Brindavan, Whitefield, and my results had not come out. So there was a delay in the announcement of the results, because the results were required to apply for the undergrad studies in Brindavan. However, the results came, I think, second week of July or so, and I immediately applied, and the college had already started. So by the time they reached they received all the papers and all that, and so lo and behold, somewhere in August, mid-August, I received a letter saying that you have been admitted, please come. And it was already like 1.5 months over. The classes had already started 1.5 months back. And then later, when I met Dr. Gokak, he said that when your application came, we were in kind of a dilemma as to whether you can enter the college. Then I took the application to Swami, and Swami said, call him. So it was like literally Swami's directive that I came to the college to study there. So initially, it was like singing. Whenever Swami used to spend a lot of time in Brindavan those days. And evening there used to be bhajans every day. when Swami is in station, and there used to be a Nagar Sankirtan in the morning. And Swami used to, those days Brindavan was very different. It's no longer the Brindavan of old days. There used to be a darshan area in the morning darshan, and then there used to be a hall, bhajan hall. Now Trey Vrindavan does not have that kind of structure anymore. So he would, whenever he is in Vrindavan, we used to have bhajans in the evening, and he would keep asking me to sing bhajans. And one of his favorite bhajans was, it's a very, very rare bhajan, and very classically oriented, and you can play the Sapne Mein Aao Shama Murari.
सपने में आवो श्याम मुरारी सपने में आवो श्याम मुरारी सावरी सूरत मुरली धारी सावरी सूरत मुरली धारी सपने में आवो श्याम मुरारी सपने में आवो श्याम मुरारी सबके साजन प्रभु गिरधारी सबके साजन प्रभु गिरधारी सबके साजन प्रभु गिरधारी सद्गुरु साई प्रतिविहारी सद्गुरु साई प्रतिविहारी सपने में आओ श्याम मुरारी सपने में आओ श्याम मुरारी
So Swami would, whenever he's there, and he would be kind of engrossed in this bhajan, and he would keep on asking me to sing this bhajan again and again. Another bhajan that I remember Swami asking me repeatedly is Ganga Jatadhara Gauri Shankara Girija Manaramana. So I used to sing that as well, and he would keep on asking me to repeat this bhajan, and so much so that you can play that bhajan now. Ganga Jatadhara Gauri Shankara, yeah.
जय गंगा जटाधर गौरी शंकर गिरिजामन रमणा जय गंगा जटाधर गौरी शंकर गिरिजामन रमणा जय मृत्युंजय महादेव महेश्वर मंगल शुभ चरणा जय मृत्युंजय महादेव महेश्वर मंगल शुभ करणा जय नंदिवाहना नागभूषणा नंदिवाहना नागभूषणा निरुपम गुण सदना निरुपम गुण सदना नटन मनोहर नीलकंठ साई नटन मनोहर नीलकंठ साई नीरज दल नयना नीरज दल नयना जय गंगा जटाधर Gauri Shankara Girijamana Ramana.
And he would ask me to sing this repeatedly. And Swami used to take trips during the summertime when the college is closed to Uti or sometimes Chennai, Hyderabad, close by places. Uti was a very regular trip. So when every trip, what Swami started, I used to accompany Swami in his own car, and sometimes I even drove the car. And at one such, not one, but many such occasions, he would ask me to sing this bhajan. And eventually, Swami literally learned this bhajan and started singing it in the public. Ganga Jaradhar. You must have heard Swami sing this so many times. So, slow and steadily, he started bringing me very close to him. And what happened was around early 1975, he was, Brindavan had that tree, banyan, like big banyan tree, and the mantapam was like just the mantapam under that tree, and all the devotees would come and sit under that tree, and Swami would come to darshan. And opposite that, or more towards the gate, used to be the hostel. And the hostel was very, very simple those days. It was just a floor, and the bathrooms were downstairs, and all of us would sleep on the floor. And we would have each of us would have a corner. There we put our bedding and suitcase, whatever, and sleep. Downstairs was the dining hall, where there were these solid stone, granite, unpolished granite tables, and the kitchen was next door, where the food would be cooked and we would be served food in that dining hall. So from this darshan, Swami had come out for darshan, and suddenly he came to the hostel. So all of us ran into the hostel, and at that time, I think we were hardly 100 students, maybe less than 100 students. So he came straight to the hostel dining hall, and someone quickly went and grabbed a chair, and then he sat down on the chair, and he started talking. And Dr. Narendra was the principal of the school, of the college then. He also was with us, and Swami started asking Dr. Narendra, what about staging a play, Narendra? Swami used to talk most of the time in Telugu, and he asked him, should we stage a play? He said, definitely, Swami, whatever you wish, whatever you feel like. Then he said, okay, let's have a play, and let the play be on the Shankaracharya. And he said that the play should be on Shankaracharya. Then he started looking around, and he said, then who will be the Shankaracharya? He asked Dr. Narendra. And Narendra said, Swami, whomever you wish. And he said, what about Rupaku? And Dr. Narendra said, yes, Swami, definitely we will have Rupak as Shankaracharya. Now, I think he had in his mind Bhaja Govindam. Bhaja Govindam is a very kind of poetical composition of Shankaracharya, and he did directly indicate, but left it to Narendra to kind of decide what kind of play we should have. So that's how the birth of the Bhaja Govindam play came into being, with me as Shankaracharya, and because there's a lot of, and so what Dr. Narendra did was he wrote the script of the play, and we adapted M.S. Subbulakshmi's Bhaja Govindam rendition. So the play starts with Bhaja Govindam, Keshava Madhava. No, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate. You can play that song now.
भज गोविन्दं भज गोपालं भज गोविन्दं भज गोपालं केशव माधव दीनदयालं केशव माधव दीनदयालं भज गोविन्दं भज गोपालं केशव माधव दीनदयालं 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 आलं दीनदयालं 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 केशव माधव दीनदयालं केशव माधव दीनदयालं भज गोविन्दं भज गोपालं केशव माधव दीनदयालम्.
So the play was staged in Brindavan first, and we didn't have an auditorium. No, nothing was built yet, and there was no stage as such. So the makeshift stage was actually under the tree. There was kind of you can say the rotunda, or like elevated platform. So the whole stage was, the whole play was staged in that under the tree. So it was, but it was very touching. A lot of people were really impressed, and they came to Swami and said it was beautiful, and we were so transported and all that. So Swami said that we'll have it another time. So the next staging of this play was in Shanmukhananda Hall Auditorium in Bombay. So we all went to Bombay by flight, and some of us also traveled actually by train. And we reached Bombay, and it was staged in Shanmukhananda Hall Auditorium. That was in May of 1975. Then, in the meanwhile, so whenever there used to be any function in Puttaparthi or in Brindavan, there used to be always a student group perform music on stage. So then what happened was around October was a time when Dashera happens. So just before Dashera, I fell sick. I had very high fever, and the fever wouldn't go to continue to be very high. And Satya, you have something to say? What's that? Okay, all right. So around October, I fell very sick. It was high fever, and high fever. So I was lying in bed in Brindavan. So, and Swami was in Puttaparthi because of the Dasara functions. So he sent words saying that I should be moved to Puttaparthi. So a car was arranged, and someone was arranged to come with me, and I was transported to Puttaparthi. And I had no idea. I was running very high fever and was kind of delirious at times. So he said that Dasara, there's not too many interviews. So he said that Rupak can stay in the interview room in Prasanthi Nilayam. You know, there's the interview room is the front room, and there's a room at the back. So I was staying the room at the back, and if there's any interview, I would move to the adjoining room, which is there's another room which is adjoining this interview room. So I would sleep there, but the fever, he would call doctors, and they'll come and check me, and then they kept on giving me all these antibiotics, but the fever didn't subside. So I started becoming weaker and weaker and weaker, and so much so that one night when I went to the restroom, I slipped and fell. And from that time onwards, Swami assigned one of my actually classmates to look after me whenever I go in the night to the bathroom to help me. And with this fever didn't subside, and one of these times, the fever was very high, and Swami, somehow I went, in Prasanthi, it used to be the interview room. On top of that, the second floor has the Swami's room, and adjoining that is his bedroom, and there is another room on the side. So I went up, and I was brought up, rather. I was carried up, literally. And he was running very high fever. So Swami, and there was, during Dasara time, you must have seen, his name is Swami Karunyananda. He was always used to come during the function times or even otherwise. And he's a sannyasi from the Shivananda order, but he does a lot of work for leprosy and stuff like that in Vijayawada area. Vijayawada area. So he started scolding me. He started saying, because of you, see, Swami is having fever. So Swami said, why are you blaming him? Poor fellow, he's so sick. And why it's not none of his fault. And he scolded him. So this is how his love, care, Swami's immense love and care for me, and like being a father, a mother, a caretaker, and arranging all kinds of foods which I can kind of digest. Because of the fever, I had no taste. So after almost like more than a kind of 15, 20 days, he said, I think he should be taken to Bangalore and done some tests. So when he sent me to Bangalore, I went to almost straight to this hospital where they took a blood sample. And the moment they took a blood sample, they found it was typhoid. Only then I started getting real treatment for typhoid. Before that, it was all malaria, it was streptomycin, this, that, all kinds of very, very harsh antibiotics. That was Swami's beautiful care, love, and kind of every single thing he would take care. Then during this time, after I came out of this, Swami used to ask us to perform different music concerts. And so whatever we had, whatever instruments we had, like, harmonium, tabla, and very few electronic instruments, So even if we express to Swami that, oh, some electronic instrument be nice to have, so that they can. And there was the accordion, of course. There was one accordion. There was an accordion player, violin. Later, veena. Sitar was not there. Sitar, yeah, one sitarist was there. So we had formed like a music group. And Swami would ask us to perform in various functions. And in one such function, like there used to be music concerts almost in every function. And in one such function, Anup Jalota had come to see Swami, and he was sitting next to Swami. And in fact, I was singing on the stage, and he asked Anup to sit next to him. This was in Purnachandra Hall. Purnachandra Hall, Swami would sit in the audience, and when the boys are performing on the stage, or sometimes he'll sit on the side, but generally he sits in the audience, and then he will kind of call some of the dignitaries who come and visit Swami then. So that time, Anup Jalota was there, and then I was on the stage singing, and I sang this song, Kabira. You must have all heard. We can play that song now. Kabir, Kabira, jab hum paida hue.
कबीरा जब हम पैदा हुए जग हंसे हम रोए कबीरा जब हम पैदा हुए जग हंसे हम रोए ऐसी करनी कर चलो हम हंसे जग रोए चदरिया झीनी रे झीनी झीनी रे झीनी के राम नाम रस पीनी चदरिया झीनी रे झीनी के राम नाम हे राम नाम हे राम नाम हे राम नाम रस पीनी चदरिया झीनी रे झीनी अष्टकमल का चरखा बनाया पांच तत्व की पूनी अष्टकमल का चरखा बनाया पांच तत्व की पूनी 9-10 मास बुनन को लागे 9-10 मास बुनन को लागे जो की त्यों घर कीनी चदरिया झीनी रे झीनी के राम नाम हे राम नाम हे राम नाम हे राम नाम रस पीनी चदरिया झीनी रे जी झीनी रे जी झीनी रे झीनी
Sairam. And then when I sang this bhajan, and Anup Jalota is sitting next to Swami. Swami tells him, uh, because Anup Jalota is the one who popularized this bhajan, and I was singing exactly his version of Kabira. So he said that, see how nice our boys are singing. So since then, Anup, wherever he is, I've kind of gone to many of his concerts. He says, even even if I haven't seen him for years, he will say he remembers my name now. So he's got that imprinted in his memory. Then we used to also sing a lot of different Ghantashala bhajans as songs, like Ghana Ghana Sundara. Then we also sang, me and Hirok actually, sang Ram Katha. Lavakusha movie, the Telugu movie Lavakusha, there's a whole rendition of Ramakatha. We sang that too as well. Then after that, Swami said that we should enact Jesus' life, and that's how the famous play called Kingdom of Heaven came into being. It was a very elaborate effort by all the students, and um, I was again chosen as the Jesus's role in Jesus's role. So he, of course, Swami was very specific that we don't show too much of Jesus's the bad part of his life, where he's on the cross or stuff like that, and also his march in the Calvary. So these were, he would get very emotional about it. Then I joined the college, finished my bachelor's degree in Brindavan, and joined Central College for MSc Physics. And in those days, Swami, having the father and mother and all the care that he used to take, I asked Swami, can I buy a scooter and go to the city? Because from Brindavan to center town, Bangalore, is a little bit of a distance. And either you have to go by bus or you have to catch the train and multiple trains. So in those days, transportation was not that easy, and there's not so very frequent buses from Whitefield to Bangalore. So I said, Swami, can I buy a scooter or a motorcycle to go to city? He said, no, you can't go. So he arranged a car. And he said, there were a few people who used to go to city. There was Manoj Nakra, Satish he was much senior to us. So he said, okay, all of you get together and I will give you a car. You drive to the city and come back. So that was his concern about our going to the city and pursuing our studies, pursuing our work. So there was Rakesh Vadera, Manoj Nakra, BVS Sagar, who I think also spoke for you. BVS, no, he was Abhimanyu's. He's, Raman Rao, who was the Sevadal chief, his son. And then Ram Krishna. So we started taking the car to the city and coming back in the evening all together, all of us. Then eventually, after finishing masters, I got into PhD program in Institute of Science. But he said, continue using the car. You can't take the bus and all go. Other than some occasions where either the car has gone for repair or something like that. During this time, I would every function, I would come to Puttaparthi, and Swami uh, had a room for me in Puttaparthi next to his bedroom. And even in Brindavan, I used to be staying with Swami. Before the Brindavan was built, I was having a room downstairs first after my typhoid, and then I moved upstairs. He constructed a room for me upstairs with almost a attached bathroom, and I used to be staying there. Morning, I would be there for Swami's breakfast. I'll have breakfast with Swami, and then go to college and come back. And many a times he would be waiting for dinner. So I would come back for dinner and have dinner with him. And even in Puttaparthi, when I went, I had that room there. And so Swami was like he took care of everything for me, like literally, like almost like a baby, that much of love, and he showered on me. In one such function, when I had gone to Puttaparthi, this was during Dasara time, and Swami had a paralytic stroke, and his left leg was paralyzed. Left side was partially paralyzed. More the paralysis was more on his legs, and there were rumors that he had taken up someone's paralytic stroke. So he was not giving darshan even during the function time. So all the devotees were literally crying that he was not giving any darshan. So finally, he said that see, the devotees haven't seen me, and there's so many devotees have come from all over the world. At least take me to the Prasanthi Nilayam was different those days. I mean, still the structure exists. There's that kind of the parapet wall in the front, and there is the kind of Simbadwara. So we would, 2 or 3 of us would basically carry him to the parapet wall, hold him from the back, and he will just give darshan, and we had to bring him back. He was not at all able to walk by himself. So when we were sitting one evening, he said, Rupaku, poi kunchu neer tiskara, which is go and get some water in a pot. And then I went down and brought, this was upstairs in where he sits almost most of the time, other than when he's giving darshan and dinner and lunchtime. So he asked me to bring a pot of water, and he said that I brought the pot of water. I said, Swami, what should I do? Then he said, take a little bit of this water and sprinkle it on my left leg. So I took a little bit in my hand and sprinkled it on his left leg, and slowly he started recovering. So almost like in a couple of days, he was back to his normal walking and everything. So, I mean, I have not done anything, but he has made me an instrument, because he would not use his own power to cure himself. So he basically made me an instrument, and he gave literally the power to me to cure him. So this was another miracle, and like people were kind of very astonished, and it was like what is this? Swami can do anything he wants to. So that was a beautiful miracle, and I mean, miracles would keep on happening, right, left, and center. And we would, when we went to Ooty, there were so many creations. There was, you must have seen that Dattatreya picture, which actually we were going to Ooty, and we stopped on the way in like a guest house, and then it was morning time. So we came the previous night and we stopped for the night, and he would. So morning after breakfast, he just it was beautiful, very beautiful sunshine. It was not very hot, neither very cold. So he went outside and he said that I used to carry a lot of camera stuff all the time, either video cameras or still cameras or Polaroids. So he said, Rupak, take a picture. Then I took a picture with a Polaroid camera, and so he said, give it to me. He kind of went like next to a bush. This was a flowering bush, and he stood there, and I took a picture. And then he said, give me the, because you know how the Polaroid works, it kind of develops very quickly, and you just have to kind of slightly expose it to the air. So he said, bring the picture to me. So I gave him the undeveloped Polaroid picture, and eventually the picture turned out to be Dattatraya's picture other than him. So that is, I think, recorded in many books. And in fact, I didn't send you that picture, did I? No, I had the picture of that picture. Anyway, so that was his another way of showing that he's God himself. So, like many trips to Ooty. Now, one of those trips when inauguration of in the 80s, early 80s, right? Inauguration of Sundaram. We came to. I think I drove Swami to Chennai because Radhakrishna was there, but I was, I think, the driver, and so we started around 6 o'clock in the morning in Brindavan, and Chennai people were not Chennai. Then was called Madras. People were not expecting him till 11:30, but we landed up around 9 o'clock, and everyone started running around helter skelter. And in that one of those the inauguration time, I sang that Daya Karo Bhagavan. You want to sing that? We can sing it. Daya Karo Bhagavan, Kripa Karo Bhagavan, Patipurisha, He Paramesha, Daya Karo Bhagavan, Sundara Vadana, Sarasi Janayana,
Sundaravadana Sarasi Janayana
Patipuri Bhagavan,
Artipuri Bhagavan,
Jagat Paripala Prashanti Nilaya, Jagat
Jagat
Paripala,
Paripala Prashanti Nilayam.
तुम हो मेरे भगवान,
तुम हो मेरे भगवान,
दया करो भगवान,
दया करो भगवान,
कृपा करो भगवान,
कृपा करो भगवान,
प्रतिपुरीशा हे परमेशा,
प्रतिपुरीशा हे परमेशा,
दया करो भगवान,
दया करो भगवान,
कृपा करो भगवान,
कृपा करो भगवान.
सुंदर वदना Saras Janayada. So that was in Chennai, inauguration of Sundaram, I think. Then we came back again to Sundaram for recording of the Sai Katha. So how the Sai Katha came into being was Adinarayan Rao and Rajeshwar Rao both came to Swami and said that Swami Adinarayan Rao was very keen on uh, composing the Sai Katha. So Sai Katha is in Telugu, and he composed the whole thing, and he brought Rajeshwar Rao, who is the music director, who's also the music director, both the same combination of Lavakusha and Ramakatha. They are the same duo, Adinaran Rao and Rajeshwar Rao. So they came to Swami and said that we want to compose this, and P. Sushila will sing, because if you remember, Ramakatha was sung by P. Sushila and P. Leela. Whereas here he said that we'll have P. Sushila as one voice. We want a second voice. Then they started suggesting P. Sushila's nephew, who is Ram Krishna. He also sings. He's almost got a voice like Ghanshala, and he sings a lot of Ghanshala songs. So he said Adinaran Rao and Rajeshwara said we should have Ramakrishna as a second voice. But Swami said, no, why Ramakrishna? We have Rupak here who will sing the second voice. So that's how I became the lead singer in Sai Katha with P. Sushila. So there was actually Rajeshwar Rao and Adinaran Rao both came in. And Swami was in Brindavan, and they came down to Brindavan for practice sessions and then composing the whole thing, the kind of the music arrangement and everything. And they came down to they stayed almost 14, 20 days to compose, and we had a lot of practice sessions there. So Swami would come to most of the. Swami was so involved in so many of these activities which involved music, drama. He would be there all the time. He will direct, he will correct, he will add, he will kind of arrange. For example, so much so that he would even think about lighting. He would, the stage play, for example, what lighting you should use, what sound system we could bring in to have a better effect. He was, and for example, music performances, he would take care of all details in spite of the tremendous busy schedule he would have. He would still devote so much time for the music concerts. He will come to practices, he will listen, he will correct, and then he will say, this is not looking good, or this is not sounding good, this should be like this, like this, So it's like perfection and guidance, and with all the love and care, and overseeing the whole thing. Literally, he is the kind of the universal director in every sense, in dramas or music, concerts. So he was so involved. Now, coming to Sai Katha. So Sai Katha was mainly composed, practiced in Brindavan, and then we came down to Chennai to record it, and it was released. It was privately released. It was not. It was recorded in HMV studios, and we spent hours and hours in the studio to finish the recording, and it was released. Apart from that, Bhagwan Swami would kind of go to trips, and every trip is unique in its own sense. He took us to Kashmir. I think I sent a few pictures of the Kashmir trip, and then there we were stationed in Udhampur, Lieutenant General Malhotra's residence, official residence, and there we were in the June time frame, and my birthday is on June 8th. So we were during that trip. June 8th fell, and during that trip. So I don't know anyone remembered my birthday, but that evening Swami arranged for a cake, and then he put candles and all that, and uh, um, kind of lit the candles and let me blow it. And I was so shocked. And he said, "This is Rupak's birthday cake, and it is his birthday," and he blessed me and all that. So it's a beautiful journey with lots and lots and lots of incidences, full of love, full of. I mean, there is when Swami's presence, you always tend to forget that he's divine, and but he brings you back very quickly. And Swami has that aspect also, where he guides you, he protects you, he will nurture you. But then, if that attention and think raises your arrogance, then he will bring you down very, very quickly. And you have to be always, always careful about that. I mean, there are a lot of incidents I can narrate which happened that way, but I think that is required for your growth, for our growth. Now, Swami is everything to me, and even today, even if he is not physically present, he guides me in spirit form. My wife, Sarojini, who has been a devotee since she was like 5, 6 years old, she gets a lot of messages from Swami all the time, and we are very, very sure, and we are very um, kind of happy that Swami is in our life, and he is guiding us, he is protecting us, and he is taking full care of us. So, by the way, the tabla is played by my son Anirudh. He's a amazing tabla player, and all the tabla in the songs. So I am going to conclude the talk. I think it's almost time. Conclude this talk by a bhajan, which is one of my favorite bhajans, and is also Swami's favorite bhajan. You can play that bhajan.
मधुरं मधुरं साई कथा नवरस भरितं स्वामी कथा मधुरं मधुरं साई कथा नवरस भरितं स्वामी कथा मधुरं मधुरं साई कथा सकल शुभमुలను సంపదలొసగి सकल पापमुలు హరించు గాథా మధురం మధురం సాయి కథా నవరస భరితం స్వామి కథా మధురం మధురం సాయి కథా
And thank you all so much for listening. And it was an honor, a pleasure, and a great honor for me to talk to the Chennai Sathya Sai Samiti Chennai West Group. And thank you all for giving me this opportunity. Sairam to all of you, Sairam. Sairam.
Thank you, Brother Rupak. I would say I observed something that is amazing in your talk. Reflecting of a true Sai student. If I were you, I would have narrated 100 incidents out of proximity to Swami in this 1 hour, 15 minutes or whatever, right? But, I can see your humble, matter-of-fact, casual delivery was so unique and humble. Again, very subdued, mature disposition. That is a lesson for all of us to emulate. It shows the the peacefulness, the stability, the disposition is just something amazing that we all should pick on. So I love that. That was a great thing that is unique in your lecturing or sharing. And I have captured a few things that you mentioned as highlights. The first thing is the creaking sound of the wooden floor during family kirtan singing, light entering into all the pictures from the entrance, Amrit flowing out and leading to Rupak singing Govinda Hare Gopala Hare. All these things are something that one has to live to even understand what it is. It's very, very often my experience doesn't touch you that easily unless you are able to step into my shoes, and it's not easy, but amazing experiences. Vibhuti appearing on the coat he wore. When Swami decides, he descends and embraces you with open arms, and that's what he did with this family. And as he says, we have to be always ready, as Swami says, we have to be always ready to look good when the picture is taken by him. So when he is ready to embrace us, we should be ready to get embraced. And great that Rupak and his entire family were able to make use of that very well. All right. So Swami repeatedly asking, Naam kya hai? Kahan se aaya? Is very funny, very funny. It shows his lighter vein. Okay. When you look back, it's really funny. And the third thing I would say is the application for admission to college was late, but Swami personally allowed the admission. The masters will prevail ultimately, and he makes sure it happens with a little drama so that we understand the value of it. Otherwise, it would have been it's not been an affair at all, but something to recall today. Right. Then it was very nostalgic for me to hear Sapne Mein Aavo Shyama Murari. In fact, I wanted to mention that song also up front, and I said, no, I don't want to keep extending. So I curbed that, and I was so thrilled when Rupak mentioned about that song, because it's rarely sung. Sapne mein aavo Shyama Murari. This is exactly what Rupak sang those days, that I remember still now. That's what I'm recollecting. Amazing song. And to sing in front of Swami so many times that song. Can you imagine that? What a treat Rupak got. Swami learned Ganga Chatatara from Rupak in car journeys. And I know that Swami has also learned other songs. I've heard about those things from Rupak. And then Swami chose Rupak for Shankara role in Bhaja Govindam play. I would say lucky you, right? Obviously. Swami taking on Rupak's fever is so touching. On one side, Swami is miraculously divine. We all know that. On the other side, on the other hand, he was the best role model for human love, humane love, not divine love. He does both. He flip-flops between both and confuses you. And through that confusion, he makes you learn. And we can see that evident in Rupak's experiences. All right. Also, Rupak asking for a scooter to go to the Bangalore city and Swami giving a car to all of them instead. Okay. That is Sai Mata, the Mata and Pita that he was to Rupak all the time. I mean, giving him a room right next, can you imagine that? Who can get that? Now again, that doesn't get into his head, and he's saying everything as a matter of fact, and that is something that all of us should emulate. Okay, every great experience must be taken in a low level, in a humble manner, and that humility is something to be lived for Swami's happiness and grace. asking Rupak to sprinkle water on Swami's left leg to get out of the paralysis, Swami's paralysis. That's another drama. What a mischief. It's purely Maya, as Rupak said. Swami can get that cured in no time when he cures everybody in the world, in the universe. An opportunity for seva of the highest order for Rupak. Unimaginable blessing. That's what it is. And then the next incident, I would say, Rupak takes a picture of Swami with a Polaroid camera, but the picture came out as that of Dattatreya, Lord Dattatreya, reminding his godliness, the flip-flop that I'm talking about. And then finally, I would say, being a little personal and selfish, I would say what a blessing for me to sing with Rupak, to recall that moment that I told ahead of this talk, the moment of awe that I experienced 37 years back, roughly 37 plus experience years back. It was what a divine design today for the moment to be relived by our singing together now. You know, I really feel so blessed, and again I feel I take it very humbly as Swami's little opportunity for me through Rupak, and I am so happy to do that. And thanks to the organizers once again for this wonderful event that seems so casual but power packed. Okay, and like some pills that we take where, you know, all the power is inside, and what we don't, you know, it's inside a capsule and we just take it, not knowing the power of it. That's exactly what the last 75 minutes of sharing was. And let's try to chew on that and get more energy of that and let it sink into us further. That's what we need to do. And Rupak, once again, thank you so much. And I'm going to ask you a few questions. A couple of questions from others and a few questions that I added to it. Okay. My first question is, what kind of sadhana you do now? Is your close proximity to Swami from past merits? There are two questions here from that gentleman. Is your close proximity to Swami from past merits, or Swami blessed you by his sankalpa to come to his fold? What do you think? Is it because of your past karma, or it's just pure grace? I mean, what's in your mind? And what kind of sadhana do you do now?
First, the answer to the first question is, I fail to rationalize how Swami brought me close to him, why he brought me close to him. I don't know about my past karmas. I cannot kind of read all that. So the second question is, I have tremendous faith in him, and I kind of literally everything which happens to me, whether it's good or bad, trials and tribulations are all he's going to take care of it. That's what I believe. And my only sadhana is I recite his Sai Gayatri at least 100 times every day, and I will light a lamp in front of his picture, and while going to work, coming back from work, and be thankful that he is always be in gratitude, and pray that he takes care. I mean, he's taking care, and he continues to take care. That's it. That's my only sadhana.
Fantastic answer. Sorry, go ahead. Please go ahead.
I do meditate, and most of the time it's begins with Swami's image, and then it disappears into non-existence. Being with himself is the most impacting. I mean, because he is divine, he is very humane, and sometimes some of his moods, you think that whether he's got it all. So it's like a bundle of experiences that you cannot really. He can give you all the experiences in the world. He's so full of you can say contradictions, harmony. Everything is like they call the Vishwasarupa, Vishwavirat Sarupa. It's like that. He's at 1 minute he will be laughing with you. He will joke with you. He will show tremendous love. He knows everything. You cannot hide anything from him. And the next moment he'll be like, he will shout at person something. It's like like he's a bundle of experience. I mean, to be with him, it's like you can go through all the experience in the world. Anger, you can go through jealousy, you can go through love, you can go through. It's to be there itself is. I mean, it's very very unique. I would say.
Thank you. And if I remember right, Swami asked you to go to the US. Did you ever? And how did you get over the physical distance from Swami?
Uh, Actually, I always believe that Swami is in your heart. I mean, initially when I was getting all this attention and all that, you start developing a little bit of ego and a little bit of arrogance and all that. But finally, soon, maybe 5, 6 years, my staying with him, I started developing this thing that Swami is more here. You have to take him with you because there's physical proximity, physical being won't be there with you all the time. He has to be here. So I started developing that, and I believed internally that he is more powerful within you than without you. You know what I'm saying? Outside you, rather than internally than externally. So it was painful. Yes, the physical separation was painful initially, but then it was for my growth as well. And he has a plan all the time.
Okay.
You accept that plan.
Thank you. What would you say to the Sai youth today as a highly valuable advice based on your experiences?
Be honest to yourself, very, very honest to yourself. No facades, no kind of shows, because most important is the more you believe in yourself, the more powerful you can be. And be very honest with yourself. That is the most crucial thing. Because how long can you show a facade? How long can you be someone else who you are not? You know, that's my most valuable advice I can give them.
Thank you. Thank you.
Be, they say, be in being. Being is more important than be. You know.
Okay. Thank you. Given the proximity with Swami, how did Swami teach Sharanagati to you? I mean, what is your experience from that angle? How did you learn Sharanagati?
Well, Sharanagati is, it can be a concept as well as it can be acceptance and understanding inside you. You have to do a lot of churning. But now everyone has the innate power to surrender. But surrender is a very big word, which can be misinterpreted, can be said all kinds of things. Like Sharanagati means you just fall at his feet is not Sharanagati. It is the acceptance of that he is there for you, he is taking care of you, no matter what, is total Sharanagati. He's kind of, you're only an instrument in the drama of life, and he is taking care of you. That is kind of total acceptance of his looking after you, taking care of you, and he's always there inside you, no matter what.
One last question, and this comes from a Sai student, Gauranga. Shukanadi recitation. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Shukanadi, I've heard that it kind of predicts a lot of stuff, or it kind of. But I'm not really.
Apparently, there was an event, Shukanadi recitation event. Were you part of that?
No, I was not part of it. No.
Okay, so I don't know. Got that question, but anyway, Um, Thank you so much again for some wonderful responses, replies, and guidance and advices based on the questions that were asked of you. And of course, as I said once more, your narration of your experience, Sai sharing, was very touching and very simple and down to earth and teaches us something. So we will carry that forward. And thanks to Swami once again, and thanks to organizers. And I would close this event chanting the universal prayer and Sairam to everybody based on that. So, Samastaloka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samastaloka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samastaloka
Sukhino bhavantu.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Jai Bolo Bhagwan Shri Sathya Sai Baba Ji ki.
Jai.
Jai
Sairam, thank you so much.
ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात् 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 ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वप्रचोदयात्